Alrighty everybody, what is going on today? I hope you're all doing well. Welcome to our second video in the Profession Leveling Guide series. Today we're going to be leveling up our cooking skill. If you've not seen the previous video in the series where we caught some humongous fish, then you can find the link to that below in the description to this video. Or you can find it in a card in the upper right hand portion of the screen right now. Anyways, as mentioned a second ago, today we're leveling up our cooking skill. Before we jump into it though, here are some things that you ought to know before we begin. Cooking is a profession that can be suited to any class or anyone. As you can see in this video, despite me having already leveled it up once on my Paladin, I'm also leveling it up on my Rogue Alt. Now, I won't sugarcoat it, I'm doing this on my Rogue because you can't unlearn cooking on any character, which is something you should know. Although I can't think of any specific reason other than mine as to why you may want to unlearn cooking anyway, but the reason I tried to was so that I could get the footage of me leveling it on my Paladin rather than my Rogue just for this video. Which is silly, I know, that's just me being anal about it really. So keep that in mind, you can only unlearn primary professions, you can't unlearn any of the 3 secondary professions. But anyways, as I was saying, it's suited to anyone and everyone who's someone because there are literally millions of different kinds of food that you can make, ranging from the lower level food all the way to the higher end game food, giving you the really good buffs such as the 12 stamina for tanks or 8 mana per 5 for the healers and casters, for example. Also, if you have this whilst leveling, then an extra buff you can use from cooking certain recipes to help you along the way whilst questing and leveling will come in handy. The way I'm going to show you in this guide will be trying to use as many of the basic recipes as possible, meaning the food that we make is mostly using the food learned from the trainer, rather than the recipes found on the auction house or any that you can find whilst out on your travels from different vendors, such as the ones that you can find from the fishing trainers, for example. The reason for this is to keep things as simple as possible, but also to keep it more organised, since if I were to level from random recipe drops, for example, then most of you probably wouldn't be able to follow this guide. One downside though is that all of the items we need can be found on the auction house. This might seem like a positive, which you would be right, it is really helpful. The issue is that when the auction house hasn't got any of the raw materials needed for you to make the food, which is an issue I found on a Wednesday morning as I was trying to purchase them as seen here. So there may be a certain point in this guide where you'll have to find alternative recipes. My advice for if and when this happens is to simply look at your current skill level and try and find a recipe that is as close to your skill as possible. That way when you do learn it, it should be at least orange or yellow, so you'll be able to level it up efficiently without overspending on skill points. To give you a more accurate breakdown, here is a list of the following items you'll need to get from 1 to 300 and also a rough breakdown of the cost. 80 of any of the following items for the starter recipes, whether that be small eggs, chunk of boar meat or stringy wolf meat. Which one you get will depend on the price and supply on your server's auction house at the time that you begin to do this. On some occasions you'll likely have to mix and match, as I did due to low supply. This for me cost 3 gold in total and took less than 10 minutes, including travel time to and from the auction house and learning the skills. You'll also need to buy some mild spice from the vendor down the stairs in the same building as the cooking trainer if you decide to make the herb baked egg. Next is 75 clam meat or 75 coyote meat. Again, either one is fine, or even a mixture of both if necessary. It all depends on the supply you have on your server. For me, I chose to make the boiled clams, as this was one of the only ones that I was able to make on my server due to supply. Remember, for the boiled clams you'll also need some refreshing spring water if you'll be making them. This is no problem though, as you can easily buy this from any innkeeper in any town or capital city for a really cheap price of 25 copper for 5 of them. Keep in mind, for me, I overshot the amount needed to buy them to ensure that I had enough to reach each skill point, so you may have some of the raw ingredients remaining. I wouldn't worry too much about that either, as you can resell them and they're really cheap anyway, so it's not a huge loss if any at all. You'll also need to purchase 11 of either of these raw materials, and that's the boar ribs, or the crab meat. Also note for the boar ribs you'll have to have the mild spices to go along with this, which again can be purchased from the vendor below the trainer just like our other spices. Going on to the next part now, and you'll need 45 hot spices and 45 tangy clam meat. Up to now this should have cost you less than 15 gold in total by now. If you spent more, then that's probably down to your server being overinflated. For me personally, it was just over 10 gold. The rest of the items will cost around 50 gold in total or so, but don't panic. You'll see how we can easily make it back later on in the video. The next step is to purchase exactly 20 turtle meat and 10 buzzard wings. I opted into buying the recipe called Soothing Turtle Bisque, and I may have pronounced that wrong, but anyway. You'll also need this to progress on to the next step, so it is fairly important that you do get this. And my server has plenty of turtle meat to buy to go along with this. Perfect. I also went and bought the barbecued buzzard wing recipe for 1 gold. For the next item in total, you'll need approximately 50 of the white spider meat. Some more items that you'll need, and this will be made clear later on, is the 12 giant eggs, 10 zesty clam meat, and 20 Ultrix Swiss. Going from the previous step, you'll need approximately 55 of either the tender wolf meat or giant eggs, or a mixture of both depending on your server supply which recipe you go with. The final step from 275 to 300 is a really easy one. You'll only need 30 of the raw night fin snappers in order to make the final recipe. A final note is to buy the expert cookbook from Ashenvale as shown on the map here. You can buy it for 80 silver from the vendor. As I've said before, pick up an extra one to sell on the auction house because every little bit of gold counts. The best time to do this is yesterday. What I mean by this is that you should really have this skill on at least one character for the cheaper food for things like raiding or dungeons and gold farming, but also to help out with leveling and to even flip the raw materials for a nice profit on the auction house. Although I do recommend perhaps leveling this profession on a weekend, as there is a more than logical chance at having more raw materials on there during the weekend than during the week. For example, just like I tried to level it on a Wednesday morning, I did struggle to find all of the ingredients that I needed. So again, like I said, the weekend might be a better option. But of course you can level this anytime and anywhere you want, and to be honest, it's whenever's best time for you really. For me, I chose to go to Ironforge to level my cooking. There is no specific reason why I went there. You can do this in any city or location that you like, although I wouldn't recommend leveling it on the fly in the wild. It's better to do this in the cities due to being next to the auction house, and having your trainer close by makes it more convenient for you. Although one positive thing about Ironforge is that you can actually use the burning blazes that are scattered around the city to cook your food on instead of making a fire, so there is that to be aware of as well. As seen and mentioned earlier, cooking is a fantastic way to make some gold. It can be quite surprising at how much a stack of the high level food goes for. By being able to cook certain recipes, you're instantly making yourself more and more useful to the economy of your server and the other players around you. Also, every class can benefit from certain types of cooking recipes, so you'll have almost every high level player needing the things that you can supply from this profession. Even in the end game, people will still need food for the buffs, so it'll never lose its profitability. Alongside the fact that you can make gold from it, you can also use it to save gold by buying the ingredients for cheap on the auction house and then making the item for yourself. You'll always need things like mana per 5 food buffs for raiding, or even the dragon breath chili for gold farming. Whatever the situation, it can almost certainly be useful to you. Now that we know all of that, we can get on to the how-to now. Although I imagine you'd have already sussed it out by now and are probably already way ahead of me at this point. If not, don't worry. If you've noted down all of the items and the exact amounts as mentioned earlier on in the video, then I recommend you go ahead and purchase all of those items now. There is quite a lot, so be wary of bag space. Once you purchase all of the items needed, it's time to begin. Go to your trainer in Ironforge in this location right here. The building is very close to the flight master and is called the Bronze Kettle. Inside is the trainer. Speak to him and learn apprentice cooking and begin cooking the recipes that he teaches. Which one you make will depend on which one of the first items you opted in to buy. This will be either of the 3 starting recipes, so make all of those until you hit the skill of 70. As soon as you have hit the skill of level 70, then go to your trainer and learn the next ranking skill. And then finally, learn the new recipes as well, and also begin cooking those until you've reached 120. The recipe to make this is the boiled clams. By now you shouldn't have taken more than 20 minutes, which is great. Just like first aid, if you have all of the items that you need, it is really quick to level. Once you're at 120 in skill, head back to your trainer and learn the dry pork ribs and the crab cake recipes. Now go to one of the burning braziers and begin to cook all 11 of those to bring your skill to 130. After we have 130 in skill, click on the expert cookbook to learn the higher ranking skill. And then we can progress on by learning the goblin deviled clam recipe from your trainer and continue cooking these until you're at 175. After reaching 175, you'll then need to use the recipe for the soothing turtle bisque as well as the barbecued buzzard wings that you should have picked up earlier. Go ahead and do that now and continue by making all 30 of those items. After that, you should be at skill 208 if you've purchased the exact amounts that I've said and used all of the materials, which is a little over the required 200, but that's fine. Now we need to head back to the trainer and learn to make the spider sausage recipe. As soon as you've done this, begin to make all 25 of the spider sausages. These sell for a fair price, so you'll now begin to start making a profit on some of these items that you can make. This will take you to a maxed out 225 in skill, leading us to the final phase. Now that we've reached 225 in skill, we will need to head on down to Gadgetzan and speak to Dirge Quickleave. You already should have all of the items needed to turn in this quest on the spot. By doing so, you should have made a nice 10 gold in profit, as the monster omelets he gives you do sell for a nice 12 gold on my server. Also, by now you'll have also learned the artisan cooking, meaning that you'll be able to cover the final leg to 300. Since we are already here, I recommend buying the recipe from him for the tender wolf steaks, as we'll be needing them to make these next. Once you've done this, simply learn the recipe and begin cooking 55 of the wolf steaks. This will get you from 225 to 275 in skill. After this, head on east towards Steamwheel Port by the coast and speak to a fisherman there named Gikix. He will sell you a bunch of recipes. It's up to you if you buy them all, but you absolutely need to buy the recipe for the nightfin soup, so purchase that now. After learning this, all you need to do now is create the final 30 nightfin soup by using the 30 raw nightfin snappers you bought earlier. By making all of them, you'll hit 300 in the cooking skill, and that's a huge congratulations from me. You're now maxed out in the cooking skill in WoW Classic. By being able to cook, you can make some decent gold. It's really easy to find low costing raw materials or fish on the auction house and use them to create some valuable food that provide good player buffs for all of the raiders or PvPers on your server. If we take a quick rough estimate, just from all of the things that we made from doing the artisan cooking quest and onwards, we should have made easily around 63 gold, giving us a profit of around 33 gold. I chose not to include the price for the previous recipes due to the low cost of them all, but just by our profit on the final leg alone, we would have made that back anyway. So even if we're not in profit, we've essentially gotten our cooking to 300 for free or nearly free, which is fantastic because, as mentioned earlier, cooking can be an amazing way to make money by making the right kinds of food. The demand for certain foods will always be there because of people raiding. Anyways, this is the end of the video for today, guys. I hope that you've enjoyed it and I hope that it's been informative to you. If you have any questions regarding this guide or about anything else, don't be afraid to ask me in the comment section below. I reply to every single comment that I do get and I'm always happy to help people out. Also, if you're interested to know if I live stream or not, then yes, I do. I live stream every Sunday at 1 PM EU server time or 8 AM US time here on YouTube, and occasionally I do them during the week as well. But until the next one, everyone, see ya.